You're listening to DraftKings Network.
It's done.
Connor McDavid! It's not real!
The goal of the year.
Panarin!
Part of the past. The celebrations. Forgotten. The history.
Vegas Golden Knights!
History. We're back to a blank slate. Clean ice. All that matters now is what happens next. The Stanley Cup playoffs.
Eastern Conference Final begins Wednesday.
This is the Dan Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
I have some funny sound here to play for the group because I'm kind of bummed, Stugotz, that OKC didn't go longer into the postseason, just so everybody could have fallen in love with just how young they actually are, how young they behave, how happy they are to be in the NBA, traveling all over the United States.
Just happy to be there.
I mean, they're just really young. But if you didn't know, the Timberwolves are also really young, and when you put Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards in a press conference, and Vince Goodwill, who's been covering the league for a long time, explains to them, and they might not have any working knowledge of the theory that old heads have in basketball, that if you're as young as they are, you have to fail big and publicly a couple of times before you're allowed to win the championship. No team like the Timberwolves has ever gone from where they've been straight to winning the championship before. You have to fall on your face a few times. And Goodwill asks them this question. And just listen, don't think of this as Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns. Just think of it as a couple of young guys who are a comedic duo who work well off each other when making fun of how bad their franchise has been.
And usually in NBA history, it says you have to lose and lose big before you win. What is it about this team that says
we lost last year?
Yeah, but that's different. You have to lose at a bigger stage. Usually, teams usually.
It's the playoffs. We lost last year.
We lost the last 2 years. Shit.
God damn! How much more we gotta lose?
Yeah, how much you want us to lose?
We're losing for 20 years.
I mean, that's just the truth, dog.
God damn!
We've been losing for 20 years, he says, next to someone who's 22. Someone who's 22 years old.
My entire life.
Hey, Anthony Edwards is out here at 22. How much more you want me to lose? I lost in the first round last year. That's enough. That's enough losing for me forever.
I'm done losing. Yeah.
But the first round
I
is
lost
usually...
in a practice somehow.
That's right. Well, Karl-Anthony Towns, I don't know if he shook some of that reputation last night, but how many of you were out there waiting for him to go bad body language, go to be all the things Jimmy Butler said he was in a practice with Wiggins that we still talk about? In fact, I'd argue that before last night, the biggest moment of Karl-Anthony Towns' entire career in terms of leaving a mark, positive or negative, is that in a practice, Jimmy Butler undressed him. It's like the signature moment where for years now we're talking about, is this dude soft? Is he mentally strong enough to do what it is that he did in a Game 7 yesterday?
He could win a title before Jimmy. How about that?
Well, he was better yesterday than Anthony Edwards was. Everybody's talking about what Anthony Edwards is, but 6 for 24. Kobe won a championship one time on 6 for 24 by grabbing a bunch of rebounds and doing a bunch of stuff in a Game 7 that Ron Artest bailed him out of. But 6 for 24 yesterday in a Game 7, that'd leave a mark if they lost. Like that was not that McDaniels and Karl-Anthony Towns ended up bailing out Anthony Edwards yesterday, who made a couple of threes when he needed to that were wide open threes, but that was not a strong showing.
But what Anthony Edwards can do, Dan, when he doesn't have it going offensively, he is a great defender.
That's
correct. They put him
Yeah.
on Murray in the second half. Murray was great in the first half, not so good in the second half.
He said afterward, Edwards came out of the locker room. They caught him out of the locker room. He said, put handcuffs on him. And yes, that was, we talked earlier in the series about what they'd be able to do on the perimeter with Murray and how important it was. And you saw that offense rendered impotent by what they did to him.
He's a great defender. Murray was hurt, and he's going to need to be a great defender in the next round because there's a team that has done its suffering with a young superstar that seems also impossible to stop. And I want to do like a sports cable television topic right now. Which duo would you rather have, Edwards and Towns or Kyrie and Luka?
For a series?
For this series, because I think I know who the better supporting cast is. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are a little bit deeper, depending on which P.J. Washington you get for Dallas, because sometimes I watch that guy, he's like freaking Steph Curry out there, and sometimes he'll be invisible a little bit. But
same with McDaniels, though, right?
But Naz Reid, I think that was like a star-making performance. I know he had some hardware attributed to his name, but that was a star-making performance.
When you say
Rudy's a Hall of Famer.
When you say best duos, it sort of doesn't account for the fact that Rudy's not only a Hall of Famer, he's an all-star, and he's an all-star defensively, so it's doing an entirely different set of things than your duo is doing. Your sixth man of the year is also providing stuff that your duo isn't providing. Minnesota is not here because of Anthony Bennett, Anthony Edwards, and Karl-Anthony Towns.
Trash. Anthony Bennett, the Wisconsin coach.
They're not here because of those guys offensively, though. That's not why they're here.
Well, they're going up against two uniquely gifted offensive superstars that, if you ask anybody, like, I could be draped all over them in that league, and they're still getting their shots off, and it doesn't matter what I do defensively. And Kyrie and Luka are those guys, pretty much. So I can't wait for this matchup. Even though there have been some upsets, it's been an NBA postseason that hasn't had games that get its hooks into you. There have been like maybe 5 good quality games because of the way that the sport's been.
Close games.
Games. Like games I wasn't watching with the sound on until the second half, and I was watching with the sound on. I thought that game was over, given what I've seen in this postseason. When a team goes up 15, generally they end up going up 30 in that sport.
But you have checked out on loving the sport the way that you used to, and what you're saying, while it might be true for you and your casual interest, is not true for Juju. He's eating up every bit of this. If you just simply love basketball, you are watching things that don't require the late game buzzer beaters in order to appreciate the kind of players that
I'm watching it. I'm watching it. I'm saying, like,
I'm not saying you're not watching it.
Sole focus.
I'm saying that you need, Mike, you're at a point in your sports fandom where you need extra. You're at the same way that heroin users need more and more heroin to get the same high that they used to get. That's where you are with your sports consuming, where basketball, you needed to keep being all what the Sixers and the Knicks felt like at the end of the games.
Right. No, I appreciate you putting it on me. I think you're absolving a sport from its issues. I mean, the sport has issues. It's not just, and it's not a Mike Ryan issue.
The sport has issues. The sport has issues. It's the playoffs. Look, it's just fantastic. I was 100,000 feet above the earth. Rudy shot the ball. I saw the ball out the window. It went in the rim. Come on.
I don't doubt that any playoff basketball is better than regular basketball, but it's happening at a time in the sports calendar where there are things that are going on that are just of personal interest more to me that I find a little bit more dramatic. Hell, the sound was on at the NASCAR All-Star race, and it remained on till well after the race because even NASCAR gave us a moment worthy of sound.
We'll get to that. You sound like me watching NASCAR. They're just driving around in a circle. I'm bored as
We'll get to the fight. We got a fight in NASCAR as well. But, Jeremy, you have a little something here for Stugotz.
How, Stugotz, did you hear the name Anthony Bennett and go to Wisconsin coach? Like, were you talking about Tony Bennett, the Virginia coach?
Tony Bennett was an assistant at Wisconsin. Look it up.
So that's where we got from Anthony Bennett, the mistake for Anthony Edwards, not the number 1 pick in the NBA, Anthony Bennett.
What happened was he just Googled Tony Bennett to see if there was any
Is that what it was?
Connection to Wisconsin.
Wisconsin assistant, Anthony Bennett, of course.
Name another lead college basketball assistant.
It's amazing.
Right now, go for it.
I can't.
That was staggering, the way that Stugotz waited. Stugotz, hold on.
It was your mistake.
Hold on. Yes, it was initially my mistake.
Anthony Bennett at least was a Minnesota Timberwolf.
And Dick Bennett was the head coach for the University of Wisconsin at one point.
But his mistake, at least, there was an Anthony Bennett that played basketball for the Timberwolves. I can understand it.
Stugotz is spinning around as if he's won something here, and I wish to examine what just happened, which is the following. I want to let people look behind the curtain because he's got to go to an internet search the moment he realizes he said Anthony Bennett and he said it incorrectly, and now he's going to search the entirety of the internet to find You mentioned Dick Bennett for some reason. You're just firing in all directions, and it is shrapnel. It's just stuff that he spews in all directions, trying to be right somewhere. Please, Jeremy, find for me when Anthony Bennett was an assistant at Wisconsin. What years Stugotz is referencing?
That was Tony Bennett. Anthony Bennett made it all the way to head coach. I mean,
Tony Bennett was an assistant coach at Wisconsin from 1999 to 2003.
So that was the era that you were referencing.
Stepping stone, yeah.
As a victory for you. Let's go here. I want to get to some Malone sound. Mike was talking about Denver being tested, and you saw when he won that Malone spent a lot of time trolling the Lakers. He really enjoyed himself. The tone, slightly different when you've lost a Game 7 at home.
Absorb a loss like this after going ahead by 20.
Next question, man. The season's over. That's what's hard. Being up 20. The season's over. You don't understand that. The season's over. It's hard. Stupid-ass questions.
Ooh. It is warm.
That was rude.
I feel like his answer was dismissive enough. He didn't need the dismount of stupid-ass question.
I mean, he lost to Gobert.
Let's just play that again because this is how it goes down. The bitterness of losing when you're a champion who last offseason got to parade around with you through chains on. Did he have grills at one point?
He called Brucey B. Wait, look at him without Brucey B. You look like an idiot without Brucey B. And I said it.
Play that again.
How hard is it just to absorb a loss like this after going ahead by 20?
Next question, man. The season's over. That's what's hard. Being up 20. The season's over. You don't understand that. The season's over. It's hard. Stupid-ass question.
Do you think the reporter understands that, though?
I believe the reporter couldn't have gotten a better answer from Malone. It's perfect. It is a flawless answer. It just sounds and looks a lot different than he did when he was double-fisted.
Is that Paul Wall?
Telling everybody to smoke it last year when they won the title. And now it goes down a little differently when Minnesota's sending all those young people and big bodies at your three-time MVP. Rarely do you get that kind of distilled honesty from a coach. He could have just left it at next question, and we all would have known that he thought it was a stupid-ass question. One more time, play that bitterness so that we can just drink those Denver tears. Goodbye, worthy champion. We're done with you.
How hard is it just to absorb a loss like this after going ahead by 20?
Next question, man. The season's over. That's what's hard. Being up 20. The season's over. You don't understand that. The season's over. It's hard. Stupid-ass questions.
Since the dawn of mankind, we've cooked our food over an open flame and debated the best way to grill. One thing not up for debate, grilling and beer always go together. And not just any beer will do. Whether you barbecue Texas style or celebrate Wednesday with burgers and dogs, you need a beer that tastes great and is less filling, so you have more room for food. You need Miller Lite. As you guys may or may not know, I'm a pretty decent cook, especially behind the barbecue. So when I start the fire from my smoker on a hot day, really, the only thing that I have to worry about is what wood I'm going to use. The easiest decision for me is what I'll be drinking. That's a nice ice cold can of Miller Lite. Oh, and by the way, here's a pro tip. It really goes well with brisket. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, and tastes as great as your barbecue. A perfect companion for grill masters across America. With the Miller Lite in hand, grilling doesn't just taste great, it tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right at your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan. Or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces.
Dan Batard.
If you see a photo of fries, do you reach for it, not unlike a pigeon flying into a sliding glass door?
I'm not kidding you. I have been tempted in restaurants just walking past tables to grab somebody's fries. That hasn't happened to you guys?
I've done it.
You've done it to me.
Have you done that thing on like actual photographs where you try to zoom in on it with your fingers?
and you just make a big streak across it.
A bigger fry? Yes, I've licked my computer screen when it's on there. I love French fries.
Stugotz.
Who doesn't love French fries? I thought
there's
that was
always someone out there.
I thought that was the one thing America could agree on. I thought that was the one place where every citizen in our country would indeed be united across the 50 states.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
I read over the weekend, I did not know this, Stugotz, that last week in the UK, because it was a mental health awareness week, and because 48% of the kids in the UK feel pressure to be happy all the time, McDonald stopped calling it the Happy Meal.
What?
For the week, because kids don't want the pressure all the time, 48% of them, to be happy.
That's a really low number when you really think about it.
Too low to change the Happy Meal.
Certainly, because why would they feel pressure in England to be happy?
Right. No one else is.
The McDonald's team that worked on this, while I'm all for any dialogue that starts and makes easier conversations around mental health, I don't need them around what is now being called the meal instead of the Happy Meal. It's not being called the sad meal.
Right.
It's just the meal, and they've removed the happy. And I feel like you've gone too far if you've removed the happy from the Happy Meal. Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Have you gone too far if you've removed the happy from the Happy Meal?
Dan, so you're telling me you go to the drive-thru at McDonald's and you simply, last week, and you order the meal?
That's correct.
That's a number 8. I mean...
The meal is
That's
number
what
8?
a meal is, yes. A Happy Meal is something, if I'm sad, it makes me happy. There's a beautiful toy inside, a fun toy inside, and there is great food inside, and it comes in a nice little box that makes you happy.
Well, they're removing a sticker smile. They're removing the happy smile.
Now it's just a flat line.
To be fair, they didn't remove it. You still can put the smile on there. They gave you stickers,
but no pressure to put the smile on there.
No pressure whatsoever. They gave you like a handful of options. So if you want like a Happy Meal, which is like a straight line for a mouth, you have that option as opposed to being force-fed a smile.
I've got to salute, even though I'm against the principle of this, just because I want my fat and happy comfort food and I want it to always be happy. I really do have to salute whoever was in the marketing meeting that thought that this was a good idea to try to have McDonald's enter this conversation when McDonald's can just as well stay out of this conversation and not be participating at all, which is what a lot of corporations would choose, instead of stuff that would take the name, the happy, off of an iconic meal for a week.
It is dumb, Dan. I can promise you the cure for mental illness is nowhere on the McDonald's menu.
Okay,
I promise you.
Okay.
Not even a milkshake?
Ridiculous.
Okay.
I mean, it's not I'm not ordering a meal. It's not a Happy Meal. I want a Happy Meal.
A McFlurry. Yeah. It's a really positive message, though, on the box that it's okay to not be happy all the time, and normalizing that kind of discourse.
It's a message.
It's a really good message to have.
It's a message. I'm not sure if it's a positive message. You could have kept the happy there for me and kept it a positive message.
Right. Call it the Bah Humbug meal while you're at it. Jeez.
Yeah.
But this is a meal you get to make yourself happy.
Not
They're
always.
giving you less opportunity to be happy.
Well, sometimes if you're not feeling happy and you're just surrounded by joy, you just become more unhappy because you start questioning, why am I not this happy?
Preach.
Couldn't the Happy Meal make you happier, ideally? In a perfect world?
It's mental health. There isn't a turnkey answer for all of this. Otherwise, it wouldn't be what it is right now. But
have you had those fries? I mean,
they make me happy.
They make everyone happy.
They make me happy. But sometimes when I'm in my feelings, I'm having those fries. It just,
I see.
Just digging deeper.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Pressure to be happy is bad?
Yeah. If you're not happy, the pressure to be happy sometimes is bad. I felt that. Yeah. Yeah, it can be bad if you start wondering, why can't I have a good time? When I was going through a really bad mental health stretch, I was at a Jack White concert in Portland. I had great seats. I was right in front of Jack, and I was a misery. Like, if you told me in a vacuum, that would be one of my happiest places ever. And I left that concert early because I was just wondering the entire time, Why am I not happier?
Oh, I believe that this right here, what you've just articulated, is something that right now is a plague everywhere, where people can't get outside of whatever their individual problems are to have the gratitude that is necessary on the pie chart of happiness for wherever it is you arrive. But
I felt even worse about it knowing that I'd be having a great time here, and I'm surrounded by people having a great time, and I was still trying to understand it. So to hear a message that's not messed up, like it's okay to feel that way sometimes, and now coming through it, even though it's a lot like recovery, you're going to run into triggers, but I do feel like for a large extent that I'm out of the woods now. Looking back on it, I would have loved a message knowing that it's going to be all right. This isn't forever. There are things that you could do about this. It's okay to not be okay. So it's a good message.
It's a bridge too far to me, just because I want to eat my McDonald's without thinking of that at all. And I will be unhappy after eating the McDonald's because I've eaten the McDonald's and it's not what I should have been eating in order to keep my body working the way that it's supposed to. But I do actually, while I'm making fun of it, celebrate the idea that any fat, happy corporate entity would dare to walk into any of these waters, even though it's not something for both the United States and the UK. It's only in the UK. It's one branch of McDonald's sticking its finger up in the air. And do we dare to enter the mental health crisis? It's not all of McDonald's, because you generally don't have these corporations wading at all into these waters.
It's funny that there isn't a uniform policy when it comes to menu items. You go to Japanese McDonald's, they have all these different crazy menu items that you become envious of. The Happy Meals are different too. When I went to Mexico recently, the Happy Meal for Mexico was kind of a little messed up. It was like, let's indoctrinate a future workforce. Here's the Happy Meal giveaway. Drive-through headsets. Here's a nameplate that says McDonald's. Like every McDonald's around the planet has geo-targeted Happy Meals that are different.
They're franchised, though. I mean, you have the right, as an owner, you have the right to do what you want with that menu, correct?
But I always thought, my myopic Americanness, that if my Happy Meal was a Jurassic Park Happy Meal, or if I had the Batman Forever man, that was such a money glass. What a great giveaway. The Batman Forever glass set, I just assumed that, a kid in Norway would be getting the same thing. It's not always the case.
Juju, what does the rest of your collection look like? What is the cupware, other sophisticated and charming cupware that we have in the Juju household?
I got 4 good cups. It's the Batman one, it's the Joker, it's the Riddler with the question mark handle.
That was a good one.
And I got the cup I won in the Fantasy Guillermo Mafia League. Salute to Guillermo.
Oh, nice.
Any Flanagan's cups? Are they as good as the Flanagan's cups?
Absolutely. Every single cup is wet. I'm not going to blaspheme. It's equal to the Flanagan's cup.
Thank you.
Well said.
He knows when he's playing on the road.
Yes.
He knows when he's playing on the road.
Toeing the line, Juju.
Yeah. I don't think we're ever going to mention it, but I do want to mention that Tyson Fury lost over the weekend.
No, I was going to mention it because I want to talk about, I've not seen him look like that, Stugotz. And you now have a unified title in the heavyweight division, which I'm guessing most of the people listening to this do not know the Ukrainian heavyweight who beat Anthony Joshua twice and did that.
Or how to pronounce his name.
It's Alexander Usyk.
Yes.
It's how you pronounce his name. Oh. Yes. And that shouldn't get a celebration because I know the name of the heavyweight champion of the world.
I was scanning. I was like, do I venture out into this microphone and say Usyk? I'm not sure.
You went right after it, man.
Because
you knew it.
He's done something very impressive. And Tyson Fury, let's go ahead and play. Tyson Fury was trying to clown this person.
Yeah, Fury came in looking like he was in pretty good shape. He looked spry early on, and it would appear that one of the best pugilists we've seen in the heavyweight division got outboxed.
Let's watch this because he won. It's hard to beat the champion with a split decision. It has to be an overwhelming fight in order to take the champion's title. And here is Fury. Let's go ahead and play this. Fury was clowning him, and then he wasn't clowning. You've not seen Fury look like this. Deontay Wilder knocked him out, and I thought that was going to be the end of Fury, and he got up after 8 seconds like The Undertaker. But you've never seen Fury look like this.
To the body as well, Usyk.
5 minutes later.
Everybody stop it! Whoa! Fury! He's down! They'll call it a knockdown!
Saved by the ropes, saved by the bell, saved by having 100 years of ancestors who know how to stay on their feet when they've been punched by bare knuckle. Seriously, that guy.
That's a skill.
That guy able to stand around with that chin and not go down. I'm telling you, that comes from ghosts and spirits from Grandpa would headbutt you. He would headbutt you if he had a dispute with you during the Great Depression. These are people who fight in the streets for money. And that's what Usyk defeated. And I don't think people understand what it is to beat Anthony Joshua twice, which he's also done. I know we don't care or understand what might be inside the roots of a fighter from Ukraine.
Going up against the guys that you mentioned, these are bigger, stronger dudes than he is.
So much bigger than him. What are you laughing about?
Ukraine, because you're right. It's different.
Just all of it.
This crazy run of his kind of times out with what's going on over in Ukraine. And you got to imagine. I mean, weren't the Klitschko's in active service? Aren't they still over there trying to free his mind is certainly elsewhere during this height of his career.
Lomachenko as well.
You guys know that I love boxing and fighting, and because it's the most primitive, barbaric thing to be stripped down to just, I got to go in there and fight this other person for money. But when I've talked to trainers who in the corner in the 9th round are telling their fighter some form of the family's not going to be able to eat if you don't stop being tired here or stop losing. God knows what that person brings into the ring with him to beat a Tyson Fury. Because Tyson Fury is a really worthy heavyweight champion who's beaten all comers, the Klitschko's you mentioned. He ended their reign, and their reign would have been the most impressive thing in the history of American sports boxing, which is not something that the Klitschko's are not regarded as one of the great brother teams of all time because they're not American, but they'd be looked at like Venus and Serena Williams or the greatest combos we've ever had if we happen to care about them as Americans. He ended their reign. That dude has been an impressive, gangly and weird, because I don't get it. Love handles is not what we associate with that.
Hard to explain. Very hard to explain.
Like the Joker. His situation.
With more love handles. With what would look like my body. I'm fitter, I believe. Physically.
Careful.
No. Not entering this fight.
Knock it off.
Not entering this fight.
It's that time again. The NBA playoffs are here. And boy, wouldn't it be cool to watch an NBA playoff game in person? Heck yeah, it would. And what better way to do so than by getting tickets on Game Time? Game Time's an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off, which is perfect for people like you who don't plan things out. Or you're just really busy and you don't know you're going to have time to go to a game until the day of the game. And if basketball's not your thing, well, guess what? I'm on the Game Time app right now, and what's this? Oh, Megan Thee Stallion is coming to town. I could also see Bad Bunny or Blink-182, Shakira, and more, because Game Time has tickets to all the high-profile events, not just sports. You know some of my favorite features on Game Time? I can go on the app and I can see the view from my seats, because sometimes it looks like they're going to be great, but I have no idea until I get there. But with this feature, I can actually see. Plus, they have the lowest price guaranteed. And as I mentioned, last minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying your tickets last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Plus, Game Time has flash deals, zone deals, all-in pricing. They've got it all, plus the lowest price guarantee. Or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And at Game Time, you always get the Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DAN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DAN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Dan le Batard.
Are the stakes that high that if Angel Reese loses to Caitlin Clark, you need to start over again as a race?
Stugotz.
I don't know that we have to necessarily start over, but it might have to be, it will be a Black people's meeting, an important one that will be called the next day, where we might have to put some things on the agenda and get it on the table.
This is the Dan le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Sam, here's the big question. Would you draft Bronny if it meant you could get LeBron James to the Knicks?
No.
What?
Where are we putting him? We have
put Bronny on the bench. I mean,
well, where are we putting LeBron? I just don't. I don't really want LeBron. I think he's a distraction. I think we have a culture.
So this is New York, right? And New York loves the underdog. Jalen Brunson's it's like Patagonia stock. You know what I mean? Every media personality, myself included, you know what I'm saying? I was just like, yo, I don't know. I was on that stupid, like, yo, he's not the best player on the floor. He sure is.
Isaiah Hartenstein learned to pronounce that name. Got the whitest Dante in the game, making it rain. That's right, Nick.
Oh. Tyrese Halliburton, 6 points, fraud. Everybody was like, yo, he's better than Jalen Brunson. He's better than the Knicks should have drafted him. Fraud.
The same reason you're not casting a 65-year-old to start a James Bond franchise. That's why I don't want LeBron on the Knicks, all right? I don't want a 40-year-old as my primary ball handler.
I'm just here to say one thing. The Knicks are back.
He's one of the best players in the East, now leading a Knicks team. To Dan's 90s point, feels like the 90s again. The Knicks are the 2 seed in the entire conference.
The best compliment I can give to Jalen Brunson is that my boyfriend's made me watch a lot of Knicks games in the last 5 years we've been dating, and for the first time, I actually don't hate it.
They wasted the McDonald game.
That's it.
And the Toppin game.
Wasted it.
Yeah.
And the Toppin between the legs game. Y'all wasted it.
But enough knocking Knick fans, okay? They were loud. They were boisterous. Why? We haven't been there in a while. And because Jalen Brunson provided us with some of the greatest moments in NBA playoff history. He did.
The Knicks are back. We're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to beat Boston in 6 games. And then we're going to the finals. And we're going to absolutely have a 7-game dogfight with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Stugotz, I was making fun last week of the sports fans' need to proclaim something over before it's over. And you guys talked me into it, and you told me it was fun. It's great fun. Draymond did it to the Timberwolves when they were down 3-2. I, this weekend, did it outside of sports. I got the urge, the joy, and the need to proclaim something over.
Wow.
And it's not funny subject matter, but for some reason, it's what was summoned as soon as that Diddy video hit. My response was very quickly, his freedom, it's over. It's everything that Diddy was as an icon, as a impresario, as an influencer, as somebody that meant a different time to people. It's all extinguished with the horror of that video that TMZ released that was combined with, Stugotz, him being defiant about the ways that he denied all of this stuff, just lying through his teeth on, videos that had to be bought to sequester. Cassie Ventura, someone that was not mentioned in his apology, an apology that people thought rang hollow because they're like, you're doing this because you got caught. You're not actually remorseful for the behavior. You're remorseful for having been caught. I had the reaction as soon as I saw that video, the need to say, oh, it's over. His freedom is over. Everything that Diddy used to be is over.
How'd it feel? Because you don't know if it's over, and you proclaim that something is over. And so I'm just wondering how it felt in the moment.
Well, it feels like justice, Stugotz. It feels when injustices come to the forefront that way and are put in the light, and you see that what someone has been pretending to be unravels, and I'm filled with a great deal of sadness, right? You saw that thing that went viral recently where women were asked whether or not in the woods they'd rather confront a man or a bear, and the answer often was a bear, with reasoning along the lines of, well, then it would leave marks and people would believe me. everything Diddy was worked in his favor for us to mythologize that he was a better person than he was. And it made it very hard for Cassie Ventura to come forth. But now we've all seen the video. And it's truly horrifying. It's something I'm going to have to put trigger warnings over everything we're doing here. I'm not going to show the video here because most of you have seen it. And if you want to see it, you can. But Jemele Hill is with us now to help us sort through some of what it is that's here. You can see her and hear her at It's Jemele Hill on YouTube. Let's start there with the trigger warning as we talk about Diddy, Jemele. We're talking about domestic violence caught on camera, along with more allegations of physical and sexual abuse, many of which Diddy continues to deny. What do you make of the events of the weekend? What do you make of the apology sort of video from Diddy?
Well, I remember, Dan, we talked about Diddy not too long ago. And I said then that his career was over. And this is before this video came out, because I just thought the mountain of allegations, and although if people want to put it in the box of being unproven, that's fine. But it was just too much. And there was nothing, and given the nature of the allegations, why would somebody ever want to work with him again? And certainly we've seen a lot of celebrities who have been in his situation forgiven. And even now there are people who think that apology, that crappy, awful apology was enough, because I couldn't help but notice in the apology, he never apologized to Cassie. And nor did he even address the fact that when her lawsuit first surfaced, he immediately denied everything, called her a liar, and essentially said that this was just about a money grab. And so he created that narrative. So to me, if you're trying to get everybody to believe that you are feeling or that you have dealt with some measure of accountability, that ain't it. Knowing people who have gone to rehab, people in my family who have gone to rehab, my mother has gone to rehab, my father has gone to rehab. One of the first things that they teach you is about making amends and being accountable to the people that you've harmed and being honest and transparent about what you've done. So if he really had gone to therapy, if he really had some level of accountability that he felt like he was exercising, then it wouldn't have taken this many years for him to be honest about what he actually did. And let's just say, okay, maybe he doesn't want to open that Pandora's box. As soon as this lawsuit dropped, it shouldn't have taken a lawsuit and subsequently a video for him to say he was being accountable. So personally, I wish he would have stayed silent because what he offered was worthless. And I felt, a lot of empathy toward not just Cassie, but also a lot of domestic violence victims who I'm sure, seeing how this tape went viral, that it triggered something in them. I had a conversation with a friend who said her husband was very triggered by it because he grew up in an abusive household, and seeing that on tape, was awful for him and conjured up some memories. For a lot of people, it reminds me of the reaction when the Ray Rice video happened. A lot of people did not know what domestic violence looks like. And, I think we always seem to arrive at this point. Women allege things, and especially if it's against a famous celebrity of Diddy's stature, or not even as famous as Diddy, but just anybody in the public limelight, people go out of their way to extend a level of the benefit of the doubt to the celebrity, to the powerful person, like they're related to him. Like, you don't know these people. You don't know what Diddy does behind closed doors. You don't know anything about them other than they entertain you. And so I don't know how many times we have to learn that the people that are often in the public eye are not who you think they are.
They are plenty terrible, both videos, Ray Rice and Diddy. But for those who somehow missed the Ray Rice thing, Jemele, the idea of kicking someone a couple of different times in front of an elevator who appears to be incapacitated is a level beyond even where Ray Rice was.
Oh, yeah, because one thing, it's so many things to notice about this video. One, she was trying to leave. Two, I don't know what the situation was in this hotel, but he felt empowered enough that he could run down the hallway of a hotel in a towel and assault this woman. And she's just laying there taking the abuse. And everything about this setup, it was clear that this was something that regularly happens in the dynamic of their relationship. She wasn't fighting back. She was just there, just kind of accepting this horrible thing that was happening to her. And I got to be honest, watching that and seeing that level of rage, it's not lost on me that he could have killed this woman, because we don't know what happened when they got back in the room where the cameras couldn't see, or for that matter, the things that aren't on video. And by the way, very specific language that Diddy used when he said that he apologized for what we saw on the video. Well, what's happening outside of the video is what is most alarming to people, because if you will be willing to do that in a hotel where you know they have cameras everywhere, what are you doing to this woman when there is no one else around?
Let's play the apology for Jemele here, and just to get the visceral reaction, because the apology was something that landed wrong with just about everyone, and just about everyone was wondering what kind of advice he was getting, that he felt the need to do this, that he felt that this would be better than silence.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you got to do that. I was f***ed up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
What other thoughts do you have beyond not apologizing directly to Cassie or mentioning her by name?
No apologies to his children. Diddy has twin daughters. He also has a young toddler that's a daughter. And really, it's not that he has to apologize to just merely the women in his life, because he has sons, too, who are looking at his behavior every day. And God knows what these children have seen. And he has not only publicly humiliated them, he's also left them with probably a level of trauma that, most of us probably can't even possibly, fathom. The other thing that sticks out to me, about this apology is just the raging narcissism. It's like he made this thing all about himself from the beginning, talking about he was in his darkest place. You think Cassie wasn't in a dark place when you sitting up here pummeling her, like she's not even a human being? I mean, that to me, it was so many things that were so awful about this apology. And I have to think that part of the reason he made it is not only, again, a delusional level of narcissism, but also probably because there's some part of him that thinks that he will be accepted back and welcomed back on some level, into the mainstream. I mean, they're going to be apologists. Even in various comment sections, you see them. There are going to be some people who still have no problem listening to his music. There will probably be some people who have no problem engaging in a business relationship with him. And that is what is just so distasteful about this being his idea of accountability, is that he really thought that he was going to incur some level of sympathy after we'd seen that tape. And there just frankly isn't any, not from me, and I think from the vast majority of people.
Jemele, what's equally disgusting about this is the hotel covering it up. Like, whoever took the money, whoever kept this quiet for this long, like, how do you feel about that, sis?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. That's another aspect of this, is like, I don't know what hotel this was, but part of me hopes Cassie drops another lawsuit on them as well, because this is not at all what they're supposed to do. They see a violent crime actually committed in their hotel, and he was able to pay them off. But I hope people, and I'm glad you brought this up for another reason, because even now, so many people blame Cassie. Well, she should have pressed charges instead of taking the money. If he was powerful enough to get this tape suppressed, why would they think she would believe in her mind, especially at that stage and even years later, that she had any recourse in terms of getting some level of justice through the criminal justice system. I mean, it's very easy to believe and see why she didn't, because Diddy is a very powerful person. But yeah, that hotel, whoever took the money to suppress that tape, I mean, just a disgusting person. And, you know, unfortunately, I think because there have been so many allegations swirling around him, the only reason this tape is coming to light is because whoever took the money to suppress it in the first place, or however this came out, there's no fear of Diddy anymore because his entire career, persona, reputation is completely obliterated and in shambles. So there's nothing, there's just like, hey, why not? Everybody else is kicking him. So let me get my turn in and maybe even get another payday out of it. So, but yes, definitely that hotel is like, that's just despicable to see something like that happen and to, you know, take any kind of payout so that somebody like that wouldn't be brought to justice.
Since the dawn of mankind, we've cooked our food over an open flame and debated the best way to grill. One thing not up for debate, grilling and beer always go together. And not just any beer will do. Whether you barbecue Texas style or celebrate Wednesday with burgers and dogs, you need a beer that tastes great and is less filling, so you have more room for food. You need Miller Lite. As you guys may or may not know, I'm a pretty decent cook, especially behind the barbecue. So when I start the fire from my smoker on a hot day, really, the only thing that I have to worry about is what wood I'm going to use. The easiest decision for me is what I'll be drinking. And that's a nice ice cold can of Miller Lite. Oh, and by the way, here's a pro tip. It really goes well with brisket. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, and tastes as great as your barbecue. A perfect companion for grill masters across America. With the Miller Lite in hand, grilling doesn't just taste great, it tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right at your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan. Or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces.
An official message from Medicare.
A new law is helping me save more money on prescription drug costs. Maybe you can save too. With Medicare's Extra Help program, my premium is zero and my out-of-pocket costs are low. Who should apply? Single people making less than $23,000 a year or married couples who make less than $31,000 a year. Even if you don't think you qualify, it pays to find out. Go to ssa.gov/extrahelp.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.